All right, welcome back to another episode of the Big J Little J Show. This is the season opener, Duke versus Elon preview. We will talk about that, but first, little life update. Last time we spoke, Connor, I just said on the previous episode, I don't think I did, but I'm with Sleepers Media now, covering college basketball, and then I am now I will be working with Action Network as a college basketball writer. So that's something I'm very excited about. On top of, we will still continue to do the Big J Little J Show. I'll continue to do Duke content on the YouTube channel as well. So we're not going anywhere. Just a couple exciting life updates as look, we're getting ready for Duke Elon. I've been doing top 25 transfer portal countdown with Sleepers Media. So I'm going back and forth. You've been there as a writer for Duke of covering Duke basketball. Then you got to get your brain right for Duke football. Doing it with Virginia basketball, then going to Duke football I'll tell you what, dude, my brain is in a pretzel, but I'm so excited to talk some Duke football with you, Connor. And what's up with you? I know, obviously, I've been reading On3, as I was telling you before the show, that I've been catching up on your articles. You ready for the opening day? I mean, good God, you've put out so many preseason articles so far.
Yeah, I think I've got we're recording here on Tuesday night. I think there are 4 fresh stories on Devils Illustrated today. Give you a rundown of Elon, 3 glass half full predictions for the season that we can get into later. And then there was a third original piece, maybe who Duke's captain. No, basketball. Speaking of switches. Finally got the full non-conference schedule released. It felt like we already knew all those games, or at least the ones that really mattered. But it's still good to get it out there in writing and list them all for people to see.
Look, and I will toot your horn, Connor. Connor's done a hell of a job covering Duke for a long time, but like he's always on top of the game. Everything's always up to date. He's always the first in writing with everything. And you have a great article with Duke's recruitment in the background, working with NIL with John Garrett and the guys behind the scenes that Duke football fans need to read, because it's really fascinating stuff to know what's going behind the scenes with Duke football and recruiting.
Yeah, that was a fun article. Hat tip to John Garrett, and you weren't going to try to the second name in that.
I honestly forgot his name, and I knew it was. I know Cox knows him. I know Josh Cox knows him well, but I really forgot the name for a second.
Benook. Gidewaku.
I knew Benook's first name. I totally did not know his last name. But
shout out to them. I mean, we sat down in one of the position group meeting rooms for a half hour and really dove in. Gosh, it was a long story, and it could have been 2 or 3 times longer. Just great insight flowing from both of those guys on negotiations and how they tackle roster building at a place like Duke, where, we don't have to beat around the bush. It's a blue blood basketball school. And in rev sharing, when everybody is operating with the same $20.5 million budget, a lot of schools are going to give a larger percentage of that budget to football than Duke is going to be able to give. So how they're able to kind of creatively narrow the gap on and make up ground compared to a Clemson or a Florida State or somebody like that to get the right players to Duke. It's fascinating to me. That's, you can bitch and whine and moan about NIL and transfer portal and everything that college sports has become in the last 5 to 10 years. But if you still want to be a college sports fan, like, this is the reality of the situation. And so diving into stories like that is what I'm trying to give people. And it was a fun one to put together.
Yeah, one team, I love those stories as well. It reminded me of Middle Tennessee State, made the news recently with their new GM. I don't know if you saw this, Connor, but to cut how much spending they're doing and to try and get some more money NIL, they cut all their alternate jerseys. They're just doing a home and away in one helmet, and that is saving them over $600,000. And so with them doing that, though, you could use that $600,000 to put into the football program. And I think that's the right way to do it. I mean, I know there's a small percentage that cares about the jerseys and how they look and stuff, but at the end of the day, that money can be now distributed to your team. And I think it's a very creative way to put that money in a better place for the football program that MTSU is now doing, who obviously Duke played last year. But seeing like your article about Duke is one thing in the ACC, but really seeing like a small school like Middle Tennessee State, making sacrifices like that to try and keep up with the times is also really fascinating. So yeah, I'd echo what you said. Check out Connor's article. It is really good. And I kind of buried the lead at the intro, Connor. This episode should be called the Big J and Big J Show, because I'm going to be a Big J Thursday night at Duke versus Elon. I got media credentialed, so I will be sitting beside Connor up top with the media room. Connor, give me expectations. How great is it? And then secondly, give me the journalism etiquette. I will bring pen and paper, and I'll have the pen in my ear when I walk in the room. But I need all the journalism etiquette that there needs to be.
I'm so curious about I'm more curious about talking to you after the game or a day after the game, really, because I don't know how late you're going to want to stay there. I'm usually one of the last people out of Wallace Wade or any stadium, Cameron, wherever, Joel Coliseum. So I'm thinking you'll be out of there before me, but I'm really curious to know your take on things, because I don't know. I guess this is good and bad. This is going to kind of level me for an age thing, but like I can't remember the first time that I went to like a press box and was excited to be in the press box. Is always just somewhere that I've gone. Like I get excited to watch games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dragging my ass in there every time, like dreading having to work and cover a game. But I've not had that like exuberant feeling to be in a press box like you do.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm
in a long time.
I'm amped. I'm gonna come in there, and people are gonna know I am vibing. I can't wait. It's gonna be great. And
okay, well let me ask you something that's like red carpet-ish. What are you wearing?
This is where I have with the journalism etiquette. I'm not wearing anything Duke related. So
good start.
I'm gonna wear a collared shirt. I assume, or something that looks nice. I'm not going to just walk in like a sweatshirt and walk in. I'll have khakis and some sort of nice looking shirt. I don't know what the weather is off the top of my head, what to expect, or if the AC's blasted in there. Now I have to deal with AC talk. It could be 90 degrees, but inside feels 65 in that beautiful box that you guys sit in. So I don't know.
That's kind of the interesting part with Duke is if the weather is nice, they'll open the windows.
Ooh, that is nice.
So those dude, windows.
I mean, you're taking me. It's like I'm going to Madison Square Garden.
Those windows go up. If the weather's not nice, they'll stay down. Obviously, I don't know what the weather's supposed to be. It's only 2 nights away, but I'm not sure what it's supposed to be.
I'm looking it up.
I think if the windows are closed, it does get a little chilly in there. I won't lie to you there.
Low of 57.
Okay. If they've got the windows open, you might want to have like you're telling me that I'll probably have a quarter zip with me to throw on over my shirt or something like that.
Should I be writing notes after every like snap, or just doodling that looks like I'm writing notes?
I mean, I do. You've seen my yellow legal pads.
I have.
You see what I do with that. I would not force anybody to take notes the way I do.
I will be live tweeting like I always do, but I will be doing it. That's where my emotion will go. I know that you can't cheer or boo in the press box, but damn it, if the referee calls a targeting penalty and they overturn it but keep the unnecessary roughness on the field, I'm going to lose my mind. I'll be one and done. Duke is accustomed to one and dones. I'll be one and done in that press box.
So don't do that. I guess I'm hoping there's not an instance of that.
Not against Elon.
I mean, so like this is kind of I think I have to kind of toe a line here. Like press boxes don't have to be a morgue. Like we don't just sit in there and all of us stay quiet unless we're talked to. There is like banter back and forth. You have to.
I don't know.
we've all got kind of our press box shticks.
If I don't laugh, I get kicked out. If somebody has their stick and then people make the fake haha laugh, and I'm just like, that was dumb. Do I get kicked
No.
out? Do I got to laugh
No.
with them? Okay.
I mean, I can guarantee. I'll tell you right now, the first replay review that there is in the game, people in the press box will be looking at me and telling me like, "Oh, Connor, are you gonna lose your shit about this?" And I'll be like, "This is really dumb." And you guys are just making fun of me for now, but you guys should all join my train here. Choo choo, mother truckers.
Look, I'm pumped. It's a different perspective for me, even if it's like with it being Duke Elon, it's going to be awesome to experience that. And I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited for Duke football, but this is a different perspective for me. And it's not something I'm going to be doing probably ever again. It's just once in a maybe season thing, but it does feel.
Just do it and see if you like it. And if you don't screw up, maybe you can do it some more.
I'm not going to screw up. I don't think I'll screw up, but it does kill my running joke I've had with you and like the Duke football talk guys, Section 17 guys, where I said I'll be the first person in the history of Duke athletics to get media credential for Duke basketball, but not for Duke football. But we don't have to worry about that anymore because now that joke dies, as I'll be there for Elon. But there was a moment in time where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go to cover Duke basketball in Cameron before I ever get to cover Duke football in Wallace Wade, which is very hilarious to think about. But all right, I want to get in, Connor, to the depth chart that was released this week. I'm going to pull it up now on my screen here. Obviously, the shocker out of everything was Darian Mensah's QB1 beat out Henry Beelan. We know that was a battle all spring and all fall, but
Henry Beelan.
But it looks like Cooper Barkate is wide receiver. I don't know how to judge this thing through of like who's really wide receiver one, but I would judge it as Cooper Barkate, wide receiver one, Queso, wide receiver two, and Samir Hagan's the slot guy. But I don't know. You're shaking your head no. I'm trying to read through it. You get me to where I need to be.
I think Queso will be on the outside, and I think Samir will be in the slot.
That's what I said.
What did I say?
Flip.
No, I think Samir will be on the outside. I think Queso will be in the slot.
Okay. That makes sense. Well, that makes sense because the backup is Jaden Moore to Queso, and Andrew Anthony is the backup to Samir Hagans. And so
yeah.
We'll get into Andrew Anthony in a second, but yeah, continue. Sorry.
And the receiver positions, like different offenses do it slightly different ways, but it's always there's an XYZ. I can't remember what it is, but the Y lines up to the field, which usually the football is on one hash mark or the other, left or right. The field is the area with more space. The boundary is the other area where there's less space. So the boundary, if you think of it as the ball is on the left hash, if they run a toss sweep left, you've got less field to work with because you're going into the boundary. I kind of have to relearn all that football jargon every year, but I can't keep straight. I'm almost positive the X receiver is the slot. I think the Y and the Z, I get mixed up which one's the boundary and which one's the field receiver. And honestly, Duke might think of it completely different than I'm thinking of it.
What do you make of Andrew Anthony not being a starter? Samir Hagans obviously is edging him out there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's surprising. I have spent, however many months writing that Cooper Barkate and Andrew Anthony are going to be like the replacements for Jordan Moore and Eli Pankow. So one of them not starting from that perspective is a surprise. I just, like we were talking about before we came on, they have talked up Samir Hagans. Like he got an offseason award from Feely that highlighted his offseason workouts and the strides that he made in the weight room. Manny has told us a couple times, Darian Mensah has mentioned that Samir has taken a big step forward in leadership in that room, which needed to happen because Jordan Moore and Eli Pankow were really strong personalities and strong leaders of that group last year. So from that perspective, no, it's not all that surprising to see Samir as a starting receiver.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm happy for him. You know, I've held on stock with him since his freshman year, since the Duke played Temple to start the year with Mike Elko, and so I'm happy for him because he's shown flashes. I just want those flashes to be consistent. Another place that stands out to me on the depth chart, though, is the tight end position. Jeremiah Hazley was really good 2 years ago, like very productive for Duke, and would have been tight end one last year if he didn't tear his ACL in a freak play against at Northwestern. He is tight end one, obviously, but Landon King being the second of the or. I know it's or, but seeing Jake Taylor at the second spot or Landon King, do we think that is just, uh, uh, like jargon of or should not be there? It is Jake Taylor at the two and Landon King's at the three, or what do you make of that?
I don't want to read into the ors. I just not Manny. But I've had two other coaches I've covered. So I'll just leave it kind of nebulous with that and say it's two coaches have explained to me how much propaganda goes into these depth charts. And it's always the first one of the year is the one to make high school coaches and moms and dads and uncles and aunts and grandparents and trainers, everybody. They're going to list as many people as possible. If there's any doubt that, either I'm looking down here, if there's any doubt of which one has the edge, they're just going to throw an or on there. I'm actually surprised there aren't more ors on Duke's depth chart. But
didn't you say there's there's 5 on Duke's and then there's 16 on Wake Forest?
Yeah, there's 16 on Wake's. There's, I think, one defensive end position they listed 4 possible starters.
Holy hell.
Yeah. I do think their defensive ends are deep, but Duke has more top end talent at defensive end, and I think is deeper than Wake is at defensive end. But
yeah, and to your point,
I don't want to make this a soapbox thing, but it's just I've had coaches tell me that they legitimately, these are propaganda tools to make. It's more families than the players. Like the players know they're standing. The players aren't dumb. They know who's getting reps and who stands where. It's more for the families to tell them like, hey, your guy is on the depth chart.
What's crazy, one of the things that's crazy about the depth chart, and it makes sense what you said there. I'm just looking through is Bryce Davis is the third defensive end, but that doesn't matter to me. I think he'll move up as the season progresses. But what I'm getting with Bryce Davis is he's third string defensive end, and then the Viper position, Kobe Smith is third. He's 6'3", 220, and Bryce Davis is 6'3", 260. And Kobe Smith is a redshirt freshman within himself. It's not like he is, a senior, so he only has a year on Bryce Davis. But to see Bryce Davis 40 pounds heavier than a guy that would be on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, or, the opposite side of the defensive line is kind of crazy. And Viper is just my favorite name for a position. Star's great. And Rover's cool, but Viper is sick. You got to be, you got to have your best player at Viper. I don't care. Like Viper next year, it needs to be like, if your best player is a linebacker, you just got to name that position Viper and then figure out what Viper should be, or that defensive position should be.
I completely forgot that instead of doing the free safety, strong safety, they do free safety and Rover.
Yeah.
And that throws me off. That throws me off because one of Wake's previous defensive alignments, they called their nickel the Rover. So now or maybe it was the defense under Elko. I don't know. It all runs together these days, but there was definitely a depth chart of a team that I've covered that the Rover was the nickel back. Now with Duke, it's obviously not that because Jaden Francois is the nickel. Like that's the Cam Bergeron / Brandon Johnson position.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I will say too, Connor.
I didn't even pay attention to the position names.
Well, I'll say this, like Duke is very talented. That is why they've gotten the offseason buzz. And people have had them hammer their win total. This team could win 10 games, which we did get into our preseason preview. But we could possibly talk about it later in the show. But what I want to get to is Duke needs to be healthy because there are a ton of freshmen and redshirt freshmen on the 2 deep. And you just look at the offensive line here. We won't go through it, but you see, if you're looking at it on YouTube, how many redshirt freshmen are backups from left tackle all the way to the right tackle. And then you look at linebacker Luke Murgott is a redshirt sophomore, but then the next guy is a freshman, and Murgott has played limited snaps in his year. And then after Trey Freeman, Kendall Johnson, redshirt sophomore, Bradley Gomper's freshman. And then the secondary is where Landon Callahan is starting. He's behind Chandler Rivers, who's a redshirt freshman. Landon Callahan is. And then Kamari Robinson's a redshirt sophomore, who I have a lot of hype and stock in him as well. But at the end of the day, he's a redshirt sophomore. And then you look behind Caleb Weaver and Deshaun Stone, who had to play as a redshirt freshman last year. And then you have 2 true freshmen with Andrew Pelisada. Is that how you say his last name?
Oh, man. I had such high hopes for you. And I can tell you haven't been paying attention to the Duke interviews because they've all pronounced it the right way.
Pelisada.
You've been busy.
I know his nickname's Juice. I just call him Juice. Juice is a freshman, and then Mekhi Jones behind Deshaun Stone is a freshman. But Andrew what?
It's Pelichata.
Pelichata. Oh, damn it. I was close. That was pretty good for me. That's a lot of words.
I feel like you had it on the second one.
Yeah, I might have. I have to listen
You
to
just
that.
kind of froze in the moment.
But both, yeah, I tend to do that, especially at the free throw line. I'm just shocked how many guys are redshirt freshmen and freshmen in the 2 deep. So that is an area that it's cool to see that these guys earned this because Duke did have their highest rated recruiting class ever this past offseason. So that's cool to see that. But also it's scary because Duke does play some tougher games that will be a mental warfare, if you will, on the field.
So that's where the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about that, and Manny had a question about it in his press conference on Monday, and I immediately thought of it, and he didn't really bring this up, but when I asked him in Charlotte at ACC kickoff about the double off weeks, or basically 2 off weeks in a 3-week span, sandwiching the Georgia Tech game, he made sure to mention that like the younger players could not get locked into roles for the first half of the season and think that was going to be their roles for the entire year. Because where I look at this is I think all of these freshmen and redshirt freshmen, you're really going to need them in the second half of the season. I mean, if they get decimated by injuries and they wind up needing them in the first half, that'll kind of suck for Duke and it won't be good. But I think more than anything, they're going to need them in the second half when they have 5 November games. Unless the season is a train wreck, November is going to make or break this team. Yeah. Like the trip to Clemson, trip to UConn, and then Virginia, Carolina, Wake Forest. 3 regional rivalry type games. Obviously, one of them means more than the other 2, and the Wake game means more than the Virginia game. But that's where I look at it and think they're going to need Bradley Gompers to be a much better linebacker in November than he is in September. That's where they're going to need Bryce Davis to be better in November than September. Like, you just go down the list. And so that's where I look at it and think it's really going to be important that their younger guys develop when we don't see them. Because I'm thinking we might see some of these guys on Thursday night. We might not see them for another 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
Other than occasional special teams reps. But then I think we're going to see a lot more of them in November.
And that's why I'm looking up Duke Elon right now. But that is one reason why, or my main reason I even said in our season preview episode, why I have Duke losing against Illinois week 2 is just because that is a tall task to ask some freshmen and redshirt freshmen, hey, go out there and execute against the number 12 team in the country. Even though it's at home, it's just going to be that's a tall task. And even Mensah in that regard. Mensah is a redshirt sophomore, but year 1 at Duke. So I'm not going to, if Duke lays an egg against Elon, against Elon, I hope that doesn't happen, against Illinois, then I am coming back to this episode to calm my nerves, be like, hey, it's okay. Duke's going to progress throughout the year. So,
see, I think they beat Illinois.
I hope you're right, and that's my most pessimistic take of the season because I have Duke going 10-2. So it's like it's not like I have them going 7-5. I have them 10-2 and just one loss being to the number 12 team. They are. I looked ahead a couple of days ago, and Duke was like a 3.5-point underdog at home against Illinois. Obviously, that'll change throughout this week, but found that fascinating. I was trying to find the line for Duke Elon. I'm pretty sure it's 33.5. I saw somewhere because I want to get into.
Sounds about right.
I want to get into the Duke Elon since this is the Duke Elon preview. What do you want to see from Duke against Elon, especially after last year where it was ugly for a half and for 2.5 quarters, basically?
Two things. I'll try to keep them pretty short because I think we've covered these things. I mean, one, I want to see Darian Mensah in a Duke uniform playing for Duke. Like, we have checked every single box with Darian Mensah. He is poised in interviews. He is a mature young man for 20. And for however much he's making this year, he has it's a quiet confidence. You don't get the sense that you're talking to a guy, a multimillionaire, or at least will be. We can get into that.
Yeah. It's been out there anyway, so you're not.
But you got to actually see what it looks like when it's a game and when the bright lights are on. I mean, it's not like he's going to have the spotlight of the nation upon him like the opener 2 years ago against Clemson on a Monday night, but there are going to be some extra eyeballs on him because of his standing with the NIL number and because he's, according to some, the number one transfer in the country. We need to see what it looks like when he's actually in a game. And two, again, on the offensive side of things, they got to be able to run the ball better. And that's going to be something we talk about all freaking year. They could not run the ball successfully against Elon last year. Elon has a bunch of roster churn, as you would expect for any team this day and age, but you're an ACC team. You're being talked about in the way that we're talking about Duke right now as a potential 9 or 10 win team. You need to be able to run the ball against the FCS team on your schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I have is what I want to see from Duke on Thursday is run the ball. I want to see Duke average over 5 yards per carry against Elon. They need to average over 5 yards per carry against an FCS opponent. And last year obviously summed up the whole season. I make that joke tongue in cheek that like whatever happens Thursday night is going to happen the whole year because it happened last year against Elon. If Duke runs 30 times for 88 yards again or whatever the hell it was against Elon last year, I'm going to lose my mind. That is why I'll get ejected from the press box. I'm like, hey, did we just not practice run blocking? Because pass blocking, Duke looked good last year. For the most part of the season, it wasn't like Malik Murphy was always on his back. In his head, he might have thought so. That's why he rushed some throws, but the pocket was okay. It's like Shadur Sanders of taking sacks because he just keeps dropping farther and farther back. It's like, hey, the pocket's okay. Step in the pocket. But running the ball last year was like pulling teeth. But to Duke's defense last year, I say that they didn't have an offensive line. They went 7v7 in the spring game and didn't have an offensive line until August. This is a different story. So I think you see that against Elon that Duke will be able to run the ball. Who are 3 guys you're excited about to watch on Thursday?
This was the one that I didn't think about. Give me your 3 and I'll think of my 3.
Yeah, I'll give you my 3. That's perfectly fine. First one, there's 2 guys in the secondary that I'm very excited to see. I want to watch Caleb Weaver because I was very high on him. He popped on his film at Sam Houston State. Caleb Weaver is a guy that I'm very excited to see because he's really going to have to not only step up into a starting role for Duke, he's going to have to kind of be the man beside Deshaun Stone until Terry Moore can hopefully come back later in the season. Like Caleb Weaver is going to not only have to make an impact, but kind of take over like a field and a half, if you will, like a center fielder also taking left field a little bit. And so I'm kind of excited to watch Caleb Weaver. And then Jaden Francois, that star position. We talked about Cam Bergeron excelled in that last year. I want to see him creeping up the line of scrimmage and really setting the tone at that star position. And lastly, I want to see Nate Shepherd. Like he's going to get probably like 5 to 7 handoffs because everybody's going to play. I think he has that Sean Wilson explosive play that Sean Wilson was so good at Duke that obviously everybody remembers against Kansas where he had like 12 carries for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns as a freshman. And maybe it was a sophomore. But regardless, I want to see Nate Shepherd on the field because I think he could be what Sean Wilson was, where it's just like, hey, hand it off and just watch the magic happen. And so those are my 3 guys that I'm excited to watch.
So I'll go with I'm going to go with 2 freshmen and a transfer. Transfer is Cooper Barkate. I'm excited to see what he looks like. He got, I say rave reviews about some of these. I mean, we heard good things about Duke's camp, all camp. Like you don't typically hear that guys are having bad camps, but Cooper Barkate got a lot of praise. So I'm excited to see him. I want to see Bradley Gompers. I want to see, we're not evaluating necessarily whether he's going to be making game-changing plays against Georgia Tech or at Cal or anything like that based on the opener against Elon. But I want to see how projectable he is. I want to see what a 6'5" linebacker looks like. I mean, he's got some size on him that you don't typically see from, with all due respect, from Duke's linebackers.
Like Peyton Wilson, size-wise and speed-wise.
Yeah. So he's going to be really interesting for me to watch. And then probably the most obvious freshman, all due respect to Bradley and Nate Shepherd, is Bryce Davis. I saw him, I think, when he was a freshman or sophomore at Grimsley. And then I went to his game when they played Reagan. So I saw Landon Callahan and talked to him. But Bryce didn't play when I went and saw him later in his career. And then I never got a chance. Schedule-wise and whatever, I'd never got a chance to see Bryce in his senior season. So I want to see Bryce Davis. I want to see what that looks like at defensive end.
Yeah, I like that. And like I said, 6'3", 260 as a true freshman. Duke hasn't had many of those maybe ever come through.
And that's the thing where it's like him and VJ were both 4-star guys. They both went to like All-American, the Under Armour All-American Bowl, I think. VJ was 220 as a freshman.
Yep.
Like and 6'6", 220. He was a very lean defensive end trying to start for an ACC football team. That was not ideal. Bryce Davis at 6'3", 260. That is a college-ready body. Like that is a frame that is ready to play college football right now.
Yeah, I mean, Vincent Anthony always had like the perfect like physique, like that he could grow into a really good defensive end, and you saw it obviously last year. And I expect him just to could be an All ACC guy this year. Being a senior, and now he's 260 as well. I do want to ask you, I have a bold prediction for Duke Elon. Like, do you have a bold prediction of, say, how does Duke score their first touchdown? Mensah throws for X amount of yards. What is your bold prediction? Or I can go first if I need to.
My bold prediction will be the quarterback doesn't flip double birds to the offensive coordinator after a touchdown pass.
He might flip them to me. Maybe he does flip birds, but it's to me in the media booth beside the offensive coordinator.
My bold prediction on top of that is there will be a joke in the press box made about that.
Oh, original. We gotta like put on some stand up or something. I gotta get you guys educated in some punchlines over here. But I do think my bold prediction is I was on Locked on Blue Devils Monday this week, and my bold prediction on that was Anderson Castle would get the first touchdown of the game. It'd be like Duke gets it within the 5-yard line, and then they bring in the guy to clean up the mess. And so that was the bold prediction with JJ. So I will not use that as a cop out for this one. So mine will be, I will say it's hard because I want to give Mensah so much praise, or since he has all this hype, but I really don't think Duke's going to show like Duke. The one thing last year again against Elon that I'll defend them on. They didn't really want to show anything. Duke just ran like 3 or 4 plays the whole game, and they just could not. They missed the bombs ever so slightly, but they didn't run anything sophisticated. So I don't think Mintz is going to throw for like 300 yards because Duke's, trying to run up the score. But I will say Mensah has a 70% completion percentage or better. So I think that everything will be smooth, hopefully, to where he's like 15 of 19 or 15 of 18 or something like that. And, he's over 70% completion percentage with 250 some yards. Not on 15 completions, but like 20, what I'm saying? 20 of 24, 230 yards.
I mean, they've got the receivers that can turn a little bubble screen that looks like it's going for 5 yards into 50.
Right. And the RPO, it's a good play. Duke, the one thing with this season, it feels like it's slowly approaching that, the downtime that I've had, I will watch. I'm a sicko, and I don't watch the highlights. I watch the full game of Duke FSU, where I was like, my eyes were just like, where is the offense? If Chandler Rivers didn't exist, Duke loses against Florida State. But I watched that game, the UNC game. My point being, Duke ran so many RPOs, and every time SMU, and the announcer's just like, you got to hit the singles. It's not even bad. It's not bad play calls. Your quarterback's missing singles. And that was true. He missed so many singles, and then he hit the occasional home run. And I think Duke is going to turn these singles that they missed last year into potential Little League home runs, where it's just like, hey, here's a 15-yard RPO, but now you got speedsters that hit him in stride. They can take it to the house.
Yeah. So
that is my bold prediction, is he will have a 70% or better completion percentage against Elon. Duke does cover, by the way. I have that. And so I think Duke covers 33.5. I think they win 49-7.
I gave a score prediction that I don't like don't score. I think we've covered that before.
Yeah,
but I did get asked to give one, and I gave it. And I said Duke 38-10.
Oh,
and I
you
think,
got covering.
I think Duke's – so I had to give a little 30-word description, and I said I think Duke's backups on defense give up a touchdown late. I didn't say anything about the spread, but the implication is there of they're not going to cover because Elon's going to get a late touchdown against some second and third team guys.
Well, let's end with this, Connor. Give me your glass half full and glass half empty predictions.
So the glass half, I'll start with the glass half empty because that one's the older of the articles to come out. I have Duke losing back-to-back games, which you might not think is that bold, but hold on to that thought until I get to the glass half full predictions. Let's see, what else did I say? I think the passing game might struggle, especially to start the season. So I guess I'm slapping you right in the face for your 70% better completion rate.
Everything I just said, I just glazed Duke's offense, potential offense, for the last 5 minutes, and here you go, just pissing on my parade over here.
I just think it's going to take time. I think some roles still have to be settled, and I think it's one thing to have spring practice timing. I think it's one thing to have individual workouts in the summer timing and fall camp timing. It's completely different timing when you're in the heat of the moment and bullets are flying.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a developing story throughout the year. The third one I had is, we've kind of touched on it here, I think offensive line depth is going to hurt Duke at some point. This is an offensive line that you feel great about the starting five. I don't know if I've covered a team yet in my professional career that has just started the same 5 offensive linemen for an entire football season and not had injuries. Duke is going to need a Caleb Doris or Jack Small or Bradley Smith or somebody who's even further down the radar to step up and play in a big moment. And that might work out. We we didn't know who Brian Parker was really.
That's what I was going to
And then
say.
he comes in for Graham Barton and plays really well against Notre Dame 2
That's what I
years
was
ago.
going to say. Yeah, devil's advocate
So
is Brian Parker, but yeah,
it might work out, but I'm skeptical of it working out often, I guess is what I'm looking for there.
Yeah, I mean, it's never good. It's yes, and to your point, like Duke went out and got Jordan Larson from what, South Dakota State, and he just
South Dakota.
they sent sorry South Dakota, and they penciled him in as the starter left guard. So it's like, he's probably solid, like Larson's solid, but when you bring a guy up from South Dakota and you got guys on the roster that on the ACC team, it's like, hey, this guy's going to come in right away and start from the FCS program. It's like, all right, well, that kind of shows me, at least on that position of the offensive line, like maybe it's a little thin. But that's also me speculating because I'm not there. But when I try and read the tea leaves from afar, that's like what I come to. And so, to your point, and no offensive line is ever healthy. They always want to play. They always want to have 7, maybe 8 guys that are just in total of like, hey, because they got to get pulled out sometimes to get some rest in general. And so,
you can't run those. You can't run those guys for the entire game, every game. That's why it is going to be really important against Elon to see. Maybe you can be my spotter up there in the box. Tell me when like somebody other than one of the top 5 is going in there, and because they're going to get out there against Elon. The next time we see him might be against NC State or against Syracuse in a significant moment, and where it's been probably a little bit of a luxury that we haven't talked about enough in the last few years. Duke's like 6th, 7th, 8th man. A lot of those guys in the last few years have been like the Ivy League grad transfers.
Yeah.
Like they've been bringing in guys that have, started 25 games for Yale or a Harvard or a Brown or wherever. It hasn't just been Ivy Leaguers. I think they've had 1 or 2 of them come from Elon even. But this year they don't have that guy. Like that guy is Micah Sahakian, and he's out for the year because of a spring injury. It's only guys that Duke has recruited that have just kind of been in the David Feely incubator for the past couple years that we don't know how good they are. Duke probably doesn't really know how good they are until they throw them into the fire and see if they sink or swim.
Yeah, and who can there be a backup offensive lineman that can play multiple positions, like a Jacob Monk that played across the whole offensive line basically? And
right.
I mean, that's a rarity to have a utility guy like that. But my point being, like, it worked out for Monk to where he's in the NFL now, but he was like a left guard, right guard, center. And does Duke have that in as a freshman? And you don't want to ask a freshman to do that, but regardless, this is also why it's very important for Duke to put the foot on the throttle against Elon to get the young guys in. And if they could play a full second half, that'd be great. Like a full fourth quarter is great. A full second half is you hit the jackpot of all these freshmen playing legit snaps, though it's Elon, to get the mental reps of college football. So hopefully it's going to be a bloodbath for Duke, and it's not going to be 13-0 at halftime. And you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, good times.
Or you're going to be hearing me in the booth, and they're like, all right, sir, you got to leave. I'm like, well, this is bullshit anyways. This team sucks.
Please don't do that.
I'm not. I promise I'm not. I'm all talk. The one thing about me is I'm all talk.
So my glass half full predictions that just came out. We're recording this. It came out less than 2 hours ago. I think this Duke team wins 10 games. I am high enough on this team now. Are we frozen?
No.
No, you just had moved. I've ticked it up. I think in our season preview, did I have them going 8-4 in the regular season?
I think you did. I didn't write it
down.
You had them
9-3.
I had him 10-2. Did I have him? Yeah, I think I had him 10-2.
Huh. Well, I think this is the second team in Duke football history to win 10 games. I think they might need the bowl game to get there. I don't think they'll have the quarterback bailing on them before the bowl game in this one. So I think they'll have a roster that is still intact. Like I said, I think they lose to Georgia Tech. I think they lose at Clemson. I think they drop one of the game. maybe to Illinois, Tulane, or State, one of those weeks 2, 3, 4 games. But I think this team knows they're good. Like, that's something that you can say that about every single team right now, other than teams that lost in week 0.
Yeah.
But there's more of a confidence that they know what they have, and they like that nobody is really talking about them on the national scale. If I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, if I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing, I think this team has a really, really good feeling about how good they can be. And that confidence can carry you to some wins against teams that you're not supposed to beat.
Yeah. And I did have them 10-2. I just pulled it up. Lost to Illinois, lost at Clemson.
Gotcha. Duke has won 10 games once in its school history, and that was 2013 when they went to the ACC championship game and lost to the eventual national champs. I think they've won 9 games in. I just did all the math.
2014. In 2014, the next year they won, I think, 9 games.
They won 9 in 2014.
I thought it was 8,
but it might have been 9. I mean, they've won 9 in 2 of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I think you're right. 2014 and 9. They've won 9 games, I think 7 times. 3 of them are recent. And then
they're 9-4.
And then the other 4 were all before World War II. Like, they had some 9-1 seasons in the 30s or something like that.
Jesus.
There's a large gap for about 70 to 80 years where Duke did not touch 9 wins.
We were 9-4, and it was 9-4 in 2014 because that's where we lost to Arizona State in the freaking Sun Bowl, where Duke came all the way back and took the lead and then gave up a kick return to like inside the red zone, and Arizona State scored touchdown, and then Anthony Boone threw a pick in the end zone when I think he was trying to go to Crowder, and McCaffrey's wide open, and we lost by 5. But we were 9-3 that year. We lost to Virginia Tech by 1 and lost at Miami 22-10. That snapped like the longest winning streak Duke's ever had, like going into the previous year, like regular season, and then lost 45-20 at home against North Carolina on Thursday night. I was there, and that was very brutal.
Yeah, I remember I covered that game.
That was bad. That was very bad.
That was at Duke?
Yeah, Marquise Williams, and they just lit Duke up offensively, and Duke just they got popped in the mouth early.
I remember doing the Carolina story that night. I must have been riding the shotgun position for the Times News on that one, and so I got the winner. And I remember the whole story with Carolina was going down there and asking them, like, was it frustrating to play that well this late in the season and show everybody that you were capable of this all year and had been underachieving for the most part? It was like, why have you not played like this for the entire season if you were capable of this?
Yeah, with that roster. But look, now, and that 9-4 year, Duke played Elon to start the year. So maybe Duke's onto something of winning 9 games against Elon, like opening up with Elon, because last year they won 9 games. 2014 they won 9 games. I'll take that. Schedule Elon every year, damn it. Connor,
I got to get into my other bold predictions.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Full ones. I'll try to make them quick. We don't need to get off on any more tangents.
No, you're good.
But where are my other ones? Oh, the rushing game improves. Like, pretty simple. I went so far as to say I think Duke rushing offense finishes top half of the ACC. So they need to be about 70 yards per game better, based on where the number 8 team in the ACC was last year was BC, averaging like 166 per game.
I like that.
It's out there on a limb, because 70 yards per game more is an awful lot. But I think there's going to be that much more of an emphasis. I think the offensive line is going to be that much better now that they've played a full year together, basically. And I think having a mobile quarterback is going to make a whole lot of difference. I think when you're actually running an RPO and the quarterback can keep it and run, and it's not just something that the defense can laugh at you and dare you to keep it, I think that's going to be a lot better for Duke's rushing offense.
I like it.
The last one is, I think Duke wins 4 games in the month of November. I think they lose at Clemson to start the month, and then I think they win at UConn, beat Virginia, win at Carolina, and then beat Wake Forest in the regular season finale. And I think it's another one where Duke has had like 8 or 9 4-win Novembers in their school's history. The only one since the ACC was founded, which I think was 1953. The only one was 2013.
That's actually crazy.
They had a bunch of them like it's like in the 20s and 30s and 40s. They had a bunch of 4-win Novembers, but
that's crazy.
Generations ago.
That really is crazy because Duke, they've won the last 3 years. They've won like 26 total games. So I would have thought one of the last 3 years they won all their November games, but clearly they didn't. So that is that's a good stat. Honestly, that took me by surprise. I want to go back to your rushing thing. My bold prediction is Jaquez Moore is not the leading rusher for Duke, and maybe not the second leading rusher for Duke.
That's
bold.
I don't know about top 2. I would. Everybody that's listened to this knows how high I am on Peyton Jones' potential.
I just see a path in a world where Nate Shepherd is just you cannot not give him the ball. There's a world. It may not be this world, but there is a world and there's a path where it's like, what are we doing? This guy is averaging 7 yards a carry on 20 carries this year. We got to give him the ball more. So that's a long shot. That's why I put bold in all caps there. But I think realistically, not even realistically, but I think to go along with Duke finishing in the top half of the ACC, he's going to be a part of it.
Man, Nate Shepherd wasn't even in your list of like 28 honorable mention guys to watch when we did our preseason list.
I'm glad you brought that up because you talked me out of it because you're like, oh, Duke's running back depth is too much. Like, I don't see a 4th running back squeezing in. And I had the gun, I was ready to fire, and then I put it back in the holster because you told me and you messed up my mind and my thinking. And now I'm back on the Nate Shepherd, and I'm going to make just one graphic of Nate Shepherd's face for the game where he has 100 yards rushing this year of my impact player of the week. And it's just going to be over our faces on YouTube of just Nate Shepherd if he gets 100-yard rushing in a game. And the fans, you got to keep me to that because I will forget. I've been concussed like 4 times in college, so my memory sucks. So you got to keep me on my P's and Q's. Because Connor ruined it for me. Nate Shepherd should have been an honorable mention to go along with half the team, but he wasn't, and that's on me.
I said no more tangents, and I set you off on the
as we close the show. You have me on a rant because it was your fault, and I take full accountability, but then I also will give you some of the fault because you were in my head when I was making my graphic of the top 5 most important players, and then there was everybody else.
Yes, great.
Well, Connor, look, we'll talk about this in the press box because, like I said, I get special privilege for Duke Elon, and I put special in air quotes. I'm looking forward to it, to seeing you guys eating free food, watching Duke football, the whole 9 yards. But we'll be back next week to preview Duke, Illinois, and we'll recap Duke Elon. And hopefully for fans like me, the Little Jays, it's a quick recap of Duke Elon, what we like to see, and what we're moving on to with Duke, Illinois for what's going to be one of the best matchups in college football. So, Connor, I appreciate you, man, as always, and I'll see you next week. I'll see you actually Thursday, and I'll see you on the show next week.
Sounds good.